I really like discoveries in video games that take a very long time to be discovered. And here we have something about Majora's Mask, which took 25 years to come out. So let's look at this. This is a video from Vidya James with the title Why Majora's Mask's Blue Dog Took 25 Years to Win the Race. So let's see what this is all about.
Everybody loves a good underdog story. People often find themselves inspired by narratives where an unlikely participant rises up against all odds and triumphs in the face of adversity. Usually, though, the underdog isn't a literal dog, but I can think of few competitors who have tried and failed more times than the blue dog in The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask.
The Legend of Zelda, The Legend of the Blue Dog. Yeah, that's the launch title for the Switch too. I would instantly buy it.
Among the many side quests in the game is a racetrack at the back of Romani Ranch.
Yeah, Majora's Mask just has so many side quests. Of course, there are now huge open world games that have more side quests than this game, but especially for its time and when you compare it to Ocarina of Time, the side quests in Majora's Mask are just its own game. And also with the 3-day cycle, it's very interesting how it all works.
Where the player can select one of 14 dogs to bet on in a race.
Probably
4
the
white,
gold one.
3 beige, 3 gray, 2 brown,
but it would be too
1
obvious.
Gold, and 1 ill-fated blue dog.
Come on.
If the dog you pick performs well enough, you'll be rewarded with a piece of heart as the ultimate prize to take home. However, going in blind won't get you very far.
Yeah, the piece of heart is basically the biggest reward you can get in Zelda.
In order to truly succeed, you must first obtain the Mask of Truth from the Swamp Spider House, which allows you to hear the inner thoughts of animals. Once acquired, you can use it to see how each dog will perform in the race.
Yeah, good luck finding out all of this without a guide, and especially 25 years ago.
Each time you enter the racetrack area, the dogs will randomly be assigned either a good, neutral, or bad condition, indicating how well they can be expected to perform in the race. By using the Mask of Truth to choose a dog with the good condition, the heart piece is easily obtainable within a few attempts. However, this seemingly simple minigame possesses a hidden, secondary mechanic that is never communicated directly by the game. You see, Nintendo coded in a distinct speed stat for each dog.
Okay, this is interesting. Now we're going into the real code. And I think this has to be decompiled code because, of course, the game, you cannot just read the code of the game like this. But as far as I heard, there are also the compilation projects for Majora's Mask. So, yeah, I guess that's how it works. But also, this is reconstructed code, so probably the original code that Nintendo made maybe didn't look exactly like it, but it should perform exactly the same way.
Dog color, creating a clearly defined tier list that tells us which dogs are better and which
Really? The gold one is the goat? No way. I would have never expected that.
Are not so great. If we take a look at the speed values embedded in the code, we can see that each dog color is assigned a pair of numbers. For the sake of brevity, we can mostly ignore the first number. The important number there is the second one in each pair, which represents the...
Not so good for the blue one. I was about to say, well, the first number is not so bad, but yeah, so much about that.
Speed value of each dog for the last 3 quarters of the race. While the stats are relatively balanced overall, the 2 biggest outliers here are the gold dog with a speed value of 6.0 and blue dog, who sits at the bottom with a measly 4.0.
Well, if you look at this like Swiss school marks, it's still all passable or still a passing grade. So I think this should be fine, right?
Speed value. When playing the game, these 2 extremities are easily observed. The gold dog, especially if given the good condition, is almost guaranteed to win the race, while the blue dog, with its minimal speed value compared to the other dogs, well, blue dog's viability, or lack thereof, has become the subject of outright infamy among Majora's Mask fans.
Oh, wow.
Over the 25 years since the game's original release, nobody has ever seen blue dog come even close to winning the race, with essentially everyone in the community claiming it was outright impossible.
Like a dog.
I see. Impossible things that people say are impossible. you should never say this about video games. Like, especially old Nintendo games. Don't do it.
A blue dog.
This chat has a lot of faith in a dog that absolutely 100% cannot win this minigame, but
Yeah.
it's okay.
Without a single win under its belt, the legend of Blue Dog has become one of complete and
Okay, let's see. There is one thing about each video game which basically makes everything possible, and that's Ace. Like arbitrary code execution. If you do this, you can basically do anything. And I have the theory that basically you can do anything in any game, because at one point some people are gonna discover Ace and then they can just do something crazy. So if it's gonna be Ace, I'm gonna be a little bit disappointed, but let's see. Maybe it's not. Just an idea I had at this moment.
an utter failure. So, what's the deal here? Is it truly impossible, or have we just not tried hard enough? Well, as it turns out, there may just be a glimmer of hope for our beloved underdog.
Okay.
Over the
Is it
last few
Ace?
years, Majora's Mask speedrunners became aware of an extremely rare glitch where a dog can mysteriously win the race around halfway through the track. The source of the glitch is due to a math error in the game's code, where the game performs a check to see if any of the dogs are in the finish line region. The way the game determines the finish line region is by looking at 3 separate regions defined by the differently colored shading shown here.
Yeah, that's just what happens when people completely take the game apart and basically decompile it and do all of the other stuff. You just find all of this.
If any dog is in all 3 regions at once, the game deems it on the finish line and having completed the race. You
Oh.
can see that the 3 regions all intersect in this quadrilateral
Yes.
that roughly encompasses where we'd expect the finish line to be.
But
Taking a closer look reveals that the 3 regions all continue to intersect along this line here. Wouldn't you know it, the line runs all the way to the other side of the track, revealing
I see. Yeah, it's just a small line.
the source of this glitch. If a dog ever happens to be exactly on this line, the game will see that it's in all 3 regions at once and declare the dog to have finished the race way earlier than any of the other dogs. And this glitch could, in theory, grant Blue Dog the victory we've all been waiting
I
for.
see. So just according to the game's code, he would win, but he wouldn't actually win the race if it was without this bug. But I guess it counts. If the game says the dog wins, yeah, why not?
But wait, I hear you say, if the line runs all the way across the track, shouldn't this happen all the time? The dogs cross over this line every single race, so what gives? The truth of the matter is that the line is extremely, extremely thin, and the dogs themselves are treated as nothing more than coordinates in a 3D space.
Yeah, I see. So basically, because of the frame count of the game, probably the coordinates just always jump and don't move straight, and it's basically very, very strong RNG if it's gonna intersect with that line. That's my guess.
That is to say, a single point on the map upon which the game draws the rest of the dog's model. Every frame, the dog will move along the track by having its coordinates shifted a certain distance
Exactly.
along the track relative to the dog's speed value. It's easier to visualize if I draw this out in a 2D space. Let's say a line falls exactly here on the racetrack, and a dog comes in moving 5.5 units every frame. It's important to note that the game only evaluates if the dog is in the finish line region once per frame, meaning the only time a dog's position is checked is over these 5.5 unit increments. As a result, in almost all normal instances of the dog race, the dogs hop over the fake finish line region,
Right.
which is why this glitch rarely ever happens in practice. In fact, as of the recording of this video, there are only 4 known instances of this glitch ever occurring within regular gameplay,
Well,
with the first known instance not occurring
of people who play the game on stream or record it. Of course, there are a lot of people that played this game where it was never recorded or they didn't notice.
until 2018, a good 18 years after Majora's Mask originally released. I say known instances because
Exactly.
probably there's been more cases over the years, but without sufficient evidence, we have to assume that any prior instances of this occurring happened to someone who didn't know enough about the game to recognize that something special had happened, nor feel the need
Right.
to recount it for the internet, who would probably just write them off as having an uncle at Nintendo. For Majora's Mask nerds, it wasn't until the third time, when it happened to speedrunning legend Marco in 2022, that anyone took note of it and began digging into why this glitch occurred.
Alors que j'aurais pu avoir...
I think this is French.
270. Quoi?
Ah, right.
D'accord.
D'accord.
Ok.
Yeah, that word I understand actually in French.
D'accord, ok. What?
That one as well.
Quoi? Mais... Hein? Hallo?
Hallo? Wie geht's?
In Marco's clip, we can observe the two key pieces of evidence that the glitch happened. First is that the race end jingle plays way earlier than we expect.
270. Quoi?
Leaving the rest of the race in complete silence. The second is that the game says Marco's pick, the gold dog, got second place despite reaching the actual finish line region before any of the other dogs. But this lines up with what we expect. Some other dog, one of the other 13 anyway, landed on the ethereal line I described before, triggering the end of race jingle early and claiming the coveted first place title from the rest of the dogs who all had to finish the race legitimately. With this in mind, let's take a look at the clip of the first known instance of the glitch occurring.
I guess it's gonna be similar to
Go,
this.
Franker Z! I don't know what message you had, but hopefully it's a good one.
Yeah, it's interesting. This speedrunner has a different layout, and just yeah, on the other one you could really see how much they have to complete.
I need him to speed up right about now. Did he speed up? It doesn't look really that fast. Wait! What did the music
This
just
reaction
do?
is funny.
He won, but... What just happened? Oh my god. That makes no sense. That's the sound, like... It shouldn't, the music, that sound it made, it
Well,
shouldn't make...
actually, I guess when you do speedruns for 100%, you can actually save some time there. If you like, if you bet on the right dog and it just wins faster, or does the race still need to finish? Maybe that doesn't make any sense. And also, I think the strategy would probably be too difficult or to pull out consistently. Unless you can do some RNG manipulation. That could be, of course, possible.
Did you notice what was odd there? Despite the glitch clearly happening with the early race end jingle, Trev's chosen dog is still deemed to have won the race. This means that not only did Gold Dog finish first legitimately, but it was also the lucky dog that triggered the glitch, meaning it would have won no matter where it ended up finishing at the end of the race. This isn't really relevant to the topic at hand. I don't want to talk about Gold Dog any more than I need to, but this occurrence is just so unbelievably lucky that I had to bring it up in the video. Now, where does this leave us for Blue Dog's chances? Well, initially, our endeavors did not net great results. Earlier this year, I ran a charity fundraiser, attempting over 1,300 races picking Blue Dog, hoping to get the long-awaited...
What's that? I guess this way you definitely can make the Blue Dog win, right? I guess that's how we figured it out. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how it worked.
...victory, but alas, not only did I fail at getting a Blue Dog victory, I wasn't able to...
Wait. This way you get a Blue Dog victory. Come on.
...to get the glitch to occur a single time. It didn't seem completely out of the question. After all, people regularly attempt Pokemon shiny hunts, doing significantly more attempts than this, but without knowing the true odds, it was hard to say if I was really chasing my white whale. After all, even if the glitch was proven...
Yeah, the Pokemon shiny hunting stuff is insane, especially with legendary Pokemons, because I think in some games you can really just do the encounter of the legendary like 15,000 times and one of them will be a shiny. But what's interesting is, did it ever happen to any of you that you had a shiny Pokemon just randomly when you were playing a Pokemon game and you were just like, how did this just happen? And then you just caught it. Actually, it happened to me one time when I was playing Pokemon Smaragd, and it was very interesting. And at that time, I didn't realize how special it was, but yeah.
Possible. What if the game's parameters only allowed for certain dogs to train?
Yeah, that's so interesting that we actually have the source code of this game. Like, seriously, that's like, I think most people don't understand how special it is, because really, usually you cannot just look up this stuff
Trigger the glitch.
like this.
What if there's a finite number of possible dog races that can happen, and none of them result in Blue Dog triggering the glitch? Well, to answer that question, let's take a moment to talk about the variables that go into the race's outcome. The obvious one is the arrangement of conditions the dogs are randomly assigned upon loading the racetrack area, but the second variable is how the game determines randomness through its RNG function. Earlier, I talked about how dogs have specific speed values, and how these speed values are used to determine how far they move along the track each frame, but I glossed over an important detail.
Ooh.
Every frame, each dog will have a random fluctuation between -0.5 and +0.5 added to its base speed value.
Okay.
This means, in addition to the condition the dog is assigned, each frame, the game will make 14 calls to the RNG function in order to determine the dog's actual speed for that frame. While explaining the finer details of how RNG functions work is well outside the scope of this video,
Let's see. Okay. I don't know this. I guess this is C++ code, but I just know from JavaScript that I always use math.random, or I forgot exactly how it's called, and then math floor, and then just get a random number for something. But yeah, this is a bit different.
There's plenty of resources out there if you're interested in the topic. The good news is that RNG's role in this race is actually rather simple. Because the race runs automatically, the number of RNG calls the game will make during the race is consistent, and a race that starts on a certain RNG value, assuming the dogs have consistent conditions, will always end in the same result. More simply put, the only RNG value that matters for the dog race is the value on the frame that you start the race. This tangent, of course, is all to derive the answer.
Well, that's interesting because that way I think you can, if it really only counts at the start of the race, you can probably find out, especially if you have the code of the game, how it is defined, and then actually do something specifically in game that you have the right RNG number, I guess. And then you can actually control it and don't have to do like 15,000 attempts.
To the question I asked earlier about how many possible dog races can the game produce. Now that we've established what the possible variables are, we can...
I think less possible races than there are possible levels in Super Mario Maker. That's what I guess. Just a very, very conservative guess. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that's how it is.
Come up with the correct answer. Beginning with the dog's conditions, this number is actually smaller than you might think, because the game will always arrange it such that 4 dogs have the good condition, 5 have the neutral condition, and 5 have the bad condition.
Yeah, that sounds like one of those exercises I got as a child on one of those math Olympiads. But I don't want to think about it now.
Means that the total possible number of distribution you can have for these conditions is 252,252. Okay, it's pretty big, but it's a start. Now for the number of possible RNG values, well, the RNG value in Majora's Mask is stored in memory as a float 32, which is a fancy way of saying the game allocates 32 bits in order to represent the different values.
32 bits, that's 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. Okay, it goes like this, 2 to the power of 32, so that's a pretty high number actually.
It can contain. This means that there are 2 to the power of 32 possible RNG.
Wow, he even just said that and not a proper number. I like it.
Values, which is roughly 4.3 billion. Oh, and it gets worse because
like with every power to the power of 2, it just gets more insane. And like it starts really with 16, 32, 64, and those are all the numbers you all hear and know. But yeah.
With the dog's conditions in play, we get to multiply one big number by a significantly bigger number.
Yeah. That's a bit too much. Definitely, there has to be some trick to control this. Otherwise, it will be impossible.
And arrive at our answer. There are 1,083,414,090,350,592 possible dog races that the game can produce. Okay, so that's a lot, but there's good.
That's a lot. I think that's a number that's so big that you cannot even pretend to understand that number. Like, seriously.
News and bad news with this number. The good news is that with so many different dog race possibilities, surely at least some of them result in Blue Dog triggering the glitch, right? The bad news? Realistically, we are never, ever, ever going to get even close to this many attempts at the dog race. If I were to trigger a new dog race every second, it would take me 34 million years to reach that many attempts.
That's like, you can talk about a number like this, but it's not imaginable.
Needless to say, you'd have to be a madman to even attempt this sort of thing.
Yeah, and you will not be successful. Unless you have the luck the Dream had during his speedruns. Then you might succeed.
And that's when I heard from a user named Falkush, who had seen one of my prior videos on the Blue Dog subject, and got inspired to try and get a victory for himself. However, his approach differed from just loading up the game.
Just take the entire source code, paste it into ChatGPT and say, how do I move in the game to get a perfect RNG value? That's how you do it.
And running races in real time like I had done. Falkush had a different, but more intricate idea in mind. He had also taken inspiration from previous efforts to brute force the Mario Party minigame A Day at the Races, which, coincidentally, is also a race minigame where you choose between different competitors who have different...
Actually, I've seen so many memes with Mario Party and Squid Game right now saying, like, we have been playing Squid Game our entire lives.
Different base speed values and different random conditions. Anyway, he had wrote up a script to brute force the dog race with an emulator. Using the information discussed earlier about how the RNG values affect the dog race, this script would make a save state just before pressing A to initiate the race, then run the race at a much faster speed because you could do that with an emulator, and then after the race had concluded, the script would reload the save state, advance the game by 1 frame in order to change the RNG value, make a new save state, and run the race with that brand new RNG value and a brand new outcome.
That's one way of doing it.
And how would he determine if Blue Dog had won? At first, I thought he was using a memory viewer to look at which dog had won, but it was in fact a much simpler approach.
Manually looking into the game and seeing if it won or not. I'm sure that's it.
Fish used an auto splitter, which is normally used for speedrunning console games to look for certain key frames and send commands to your splitting program. But here, he had cleverly leveraged it to look at the first section of the text displayed after the race.
That's actually interesting. I never knew how auto splitters work, but that makes a lot of sense.
The dog race lady has unique dialogue for your dog getting first, second, third through fifth, and sixth or worse. So the auto splitter would look for one of these unique dialogue strings and record the race result so that he could observe it later. It would also record the number of frames the script waited before starting the race, so that he could manually load up the initial save and reproduce the race at a normal speed later on. So with this implemented, would this be enough to finally achieve a Blue Dog win? Well,
let's let it run for 2 years and then we will see.
After running the script for 3 days almost non-stop,
only 3 days,
generating 8,410 races, this happened.
Actually, not a lot. And actually, 8,000, that's such a small number compared to like the big number of how many possible races there are, that I would be surprised if this really like already, I don't know, like I think then it would even be likely that somebody at one point found it out and maybe didn't realize it or something like this. I mean, that it once happened before. Okay. Are you gonna bait us or not? Let's see. Blue Dog. I mean, he's just winning the race normally. Or not. Okay, never mind. That would have been interesting. Yeah. Yeah, it actually hit the frame. That's pretty clear. I just think the problem is like he just started like from a certain frame from his save state in the game. But everything else that he did before going to the save state probably also influenced how it's all going to turn out. So how are you going to be able to reproduce this? That's my big question. Or maybe you can find out in exactly in which condition the game was at this point, and then maybe if, like reverse engineer it.
Can you believe it? The world's first ever Blue Dog victory. All thanks to the tiniest oversight in the code allowing for an early win. And with Falkush's effort to automate attempts, given the total number of possible races I discussed earlier, the fact that it only took around 8,000 attempts shows that the glitch might be more common than previously thought.
Definitely.
And remember, this
in comparison to like all the possibilities,
glitch isn't exclusive to Blue Dog. Although he didn't have an automated way to track the frequency of the glitch happening to any of the...
Now the big question is, does this also work in the 3DS version, or did they remove this glitch?
other dogs.
The next challenge.
He estimates that it has around a 1 in 1,000 chance of happening, and he did see it occur a few additional times through continued attempts. As a bonus, he included a clip he saw of Blue Dog getting a legitimate 4th place, which, to both of our knowledge, was the best we've ever seen our boy do outside of the glitch. And in his video description, he proclaimed a question: can the Blue Dog get better than 4th place without the glitch? Well, as it turns out, the story doesn't end here.
Yeah, I thought
Falkush
so.
was determined to figure out just how good the Blue Dog could perform without the glitch in play, and he had an idea of how to make this happen. Remember at the start of the video,
just let the thing run for a year and then let's see what happens.
I talked about how each dog had a predetermined base speed value that
But probably he will manipulate the RNG somehow.
outlines its overall viability in the race. Well, Falkush had the idea to use this information to min-max the dog's conditions based on their speed, and thus generate optimal conditions for the Blue Dog. In simpler words, Blue Dog had to have the good condition, and the fastest overall dogs needed to have bad or neutral conditions. The result maximizes Blue Dog's chances for a victory. He again used a script to automate loading the racetrack area, look at each of the dog's conditions in memory,
Come on, just find out how the RNG works and then you can maybe manipulate it and do it faster than brute force. But I don't know, maybe it's not possible.
and reload it until it was arranged in a way that it was determined to be optimal for Blue Dog. I was initially skeptical, but 1 week after he sent me the first video, he messaged me again with a new video. Blue Dog, 2nd place,
Ooh.
glitchless. Yes, indeed. He was able to find a way to get a legitimate 2nd place finish for Blue Dog using this min-max strategy.
How does he only have 357 subscribers? But I guess after this video he will have more.
Given this result, Falkush was convinced that a legitimate 1st place finish could happen. At this point, he was running his automated script on 2 separate computers, generating about 4,000 races per day on each machine. He was able to produce another 2nd place finish, a 3rd 2nd place finish. Seeing these gave him hope that a 1st place was somehow possible. After all this
Wow, that would be very cool.
time, with virtually every top-level Majora's Mask player claiming that Blue Dog could never win the race, was it a
Never. Say never. As I said at the beginning, it just can happen anyway.
myth this
And if not, you use Ace.
whole time? Surely, with how many people have attempted the race over the years, we would have seen this at least once by now, right?
Yes, I think so. But yeah, okay. I was just thinking that you maybe have to choose the Blue Dog, but I guess you would still see it anyway.
Well, on the evening of August 25th, 2024, this happened.
Okay, I don't know what will happen now. This is so unpredictable now. Wow. True win.
And there you have it. After 30,000 total
But it's actually interesting that it never happened regularly, or it's not known that it happened regularly, because it's really possible, just like that. It was just brute forcing it, basically.
attempts, we have undeniable proof that, given the right conditions and enough dedication, it is indeed possible for Blue Dog to win the race legitimately. Perhaps it's entirely unlikely that a real human being will produce this under a real-time context, but that's besides the point. Blue Dog has spent his whole life being the laughingstock of the dog race minigame, and Majora's Mask players as a whole. But after all this time, we can bask in the glory of the ultimate underdog finally receiving the victory he's been waiting 25 years to achieve.
Mm-hmm. Actually, that was very interesting. I'm still wondering exactly under which RNG circumstances this could happen, and maybe if you can figure out how to reproduce this somehow, that would be very cool. But still, it's just very interesting that things like this happen, and I'm just wondering, did this maybe happen at one point? Because it really could happen by itself, and just nobody noticed it.